Hello, dear children. Namaste, and welcome to session 3 of our class 10 ICSE chapter, the circulatory system. Yes, we are well into the human physiology unit because, as I told you, many of you wanted human physiology to be covered after basic biology, which is why I had to go by a majority. Although, yes, some children did request for plant physiology, but then what to do? Somewhere there has to be a balance. But then, not to worry, we will be taking up plant physiology also. And yes, let's just keep waiting. Let's go ahead and enjoy every single chapter that we do. All right, and in case you're attending my session for the very first time, my name is Ambika and I am your biology master teacher right here on this amazing platform of Vedantu. Yes, guys, so let's get started. And here is my motivational quote for you for today. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. What exactly does this mean? I know it's very simple, but then just in case it's a little confusing for some of you, let me make it easier. Sometime in future, when you think about today, when you think about this particular day, you should feel thankful to yourself. You must feel that gratitude filling your heart. You must feel, okay, I'm so glad on this particular day I did something like this. I inculcated a new habit. I started practicing something new. I brought in this change in my life. It could be anything very, very small. It could be something not so small and maybe not so big either. And it can be, or it can be big also. I leave that completely to you. It can be anything at all, any positive change that you can bring about in your life. Let's all do this today, okay? And I would actually love to hear that from you also about what positive habit have you started from today. It could be anything, like even I have started waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning every day, or I have started drinking 2 liters of water every day. Anything and everything is okay. All right, and moving ahead and looking at the homework question I gave you in the last class, why do veins have valves while arteries don't? Okay, so I did receive multiple answers for this, and here are the first couple of answers that I got from Sahana TS and Abhinandan Garg. So Sahana says arteries don't require valves because pressure from the heart is so strong that blood is only able to flow in one direction. Absolutely true. Abhinandan also says something very similar. He says veins contain valves to prevent the backward flow of blood. Arteries have thick muscular walls. That's again another reason so that they can withstand that high pressure with which blood is flowing through them, right? So they do not require any valve to prevent the backflow of blood. Imagine this using your common visualization sense also. Like if you had to use a gardening hose, you would connect it to a tap, and if you like open the tap in full force, there is very, very little risk of the water flowing in the backward direction, like into the tap, right? Normally it would flow only in one direction. But then if water is flowing very, very slowly, it needn't flow unidirectionally. There is a risk of that water being stagnant, or like at least a little bit, there is a risk of it coming back. Similarly, even in our body, the same risk is there. And depending upon the function of artery and vein, valves are either not present or they are present respectively. Okay guys, so I really hope that is very clear to you. So Sahana and Abhinandan, thank you very much, and thank you all other children who have taken time, even if it's a few seconds. It matters a lot to me, okay, for taking that time to give me your answers. Right, so today let's learn about the structure of the heart, working of the heart, heartbeat, pulse, and the hepatic portal system. Now, actually speaking, structure of the heart, we have discussed like one good basic information or a basic picture of it we have already got from our previous session. Okay, I really hope you guys haven't lost touch because it's been a few days since we had the last session. But the good news is that once we do working of the heart, you will be able to recall the basic structure of the heart also. And yes, heartbeat also, I have told you like basically what happens, the lub, dub sounds, when are the sounds produced, like what are the events in heartbeat which produce these sounds. I've already told you that, but today again we'll be revisiting that. What is pulse? We keep hearing about that, and hepatic portal system, because that's also part of your syllabus. And let's move ahead. Circulatory system in humans. Let's learn about how heart works. Yes, this is a recap of what we did in the last class. Our heart, the human heart, is made up of 4 chambers, 2 upper atria or auricles. Atrium would be singular, atria would be plural, okay, and 2 lower ventricles. So this is basically the right atrium, this is the right ventricle, this is the left atrium and the left ventricle, okay. And in addition to these, we have also seen there is a set of blood vessels, right? 3 major types of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries which carry blood away from the heart, veins which carry blood towards the heart, and capillaries which are the finest blood vessels which ensure that pure blood gets in touch with every single cell and tissue of your body. And the capillaries are also able to collect deoxygenated blood after the cell has undergone a lot of its metabolic activities. There would be like carbon dioxide produced, other waste matter that is produced, and the capillaries, another group of capillaries, perform the role of these garbage collectors, and they humbly carry around all these wastes and the deoxygenated blood basically, and return it back to the heart. The cycle continues, okay. This is the basic gist of how circulation works in our body, okay. So this is how the blood flow occurs in our heart. So it starts with the right atrium, as you know, and then through the tricuspid valve it enters into the right ventricle, and then through the pulmonic valve it enters into the pulmonary arteries, and then through the pulmonic veins it enters into the left atrium. Pulmonic or pulmonary, okay, both are basically the same. And then from the left atrium to the left ventricle, through the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve it enters into the left ventricle, and then comes the aortic valve, through which from the left ventricle oxygenated blood enters the aorta, okay. So this is how blood flow occurs, okay. You can see the arrow also if you look at this diagram here. The exact same thing which I have told you now is given in the green highlighted arrows, okay, to give you a better idea. Now, about the valves, I've told you these are the major valves which are present in our heart to prevent backflow. So the major valves are pulmonary valve, as you can see here, which is like closed in this. There is the left coronary artery, which is represented here. Let's talk about the other valves which are there. Pulmonary valve, and then comes the bicuspid valve, which is seen opened in this particular image, in an open condition here, bicuspid or mitral valve, okay. It's also called the mitral valve. Do remember that, children. It's very, very important. It can come as a 1 marker, maybe in section A, usually it's asked, or it can come as a sub question in section B also, okay. But then certainly knowing the names of the valves will improve your chances of scoring that 1 extra mark, okay. So don't ignore this. And then this is the anterior part, and this is the posterior part. This is the tricuspid valve, okay, which is between the right atrium and the right ventricle, and then the aortic valve, which is also seen in the closed condition here. So pulmonary valve is what you see at the junction between the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery. Aortic valve is what you would see at the junction between the left ventricle and the aorta, okay. Not to worry if these terms are sounding too complex to you. You will definitely be able to make much better sense of it once we are done with today's session, okay, children. So stay with me patiently. This is a simulation showing functioning of valve and blood flow. Look at that, how beautifully the valves are able to guard the openings in our heart. Yes, they ensure that they open only at the right time whenever it's required, and they shut immediately after blood has flown through them in that particular direction. From arteries, from atria to the ventricles, or from the auricles to the ventricles, and never in the reverse direction. Okay, this is how a healthy heart should be. Ultrasound of the human heart also, look at that. Well, I think maybe like common man like us won't be able to make sense of it. Although if you just look at it deeper along with the labels, you may be able to connect something. But then experts, of course, cardiologists and any expert medical practitioners will be able to make complete sense of something like this. Okay, coming back to heartbeat, which again, as I told you, we discussed in the last class, but let's just recall that heart muscles contract, heart muscles relax. So what is it? Contraction and relaxation continuously happens in the cardiac muscles, just like any other muscle of your heart, right? When the heart muscles contract, we call that systole. Systole refers to contraction. Relaxation, when the heart muscles relax, we use the word diastole. Diastole refers to relaxation. Systole, diastole. Okay, so systole, as mentioned here, is ejection or contraction. So remember it like this, children. When the atria or the upper chambers are contracting, the lower chambers, which are the ventricles, are actually relaxed. Okay, because when blood is getting squeezed from the atria, okay, atrial systole is happening. Simultaneously, the ventricles are relaxing. Ventricular diastole and atrial systole happen simultaneously. And when ventricles are relaxed, it means they are getting filled with the blood that the atria are squeezing from themselves, right? And then when the ventricles are actually contracting, atria relax, because during this time, I'm saying ventricular systole and atrial diastole. When this is happening, ventricles are actually ejecting blood from them. The lower chambers are ejecting blood from them, and the blood is entering into pulmonary artery and the aorta respectively. Okay, to enter into the lungs or other parts of the body depending upon conditions. All that will make sense to you in the next 5 minutes. Okay. But this is what is happening during ventricular systole and atrial systole. So when ventricular systole is happening, why are the atria relaxed? Are they also getting filled with blood? Yes, of course. Because atria, when they are relaxed, are actually receiving blood from the pulmonary vein and the vena cava. Right. So this is what happens in systole and diastole. Systole contraction, diastole relaxation. So let us look at these two major events in a little more detail now. In atrial systole, this is what happens. The atrial muscle contracts, opening of vena cava and pulmonary vein would close. Okay, the vena cava and pulmonary veins would close. What are the vena cava? Vena cava are those veins in the body which help in bringing deoxygenated blood from all your body parts into your heart. Pulmonary vein is that vein which brings in oxygenated blood into the right atrium. 1 second. Right? Yeah. Right, so this is the pulmonary vein, and here is the vena cava. There is superior vena cava and inferior vena cava also. So this is what happens in atrial systole. What more happens? Blood enters ventricle by crossing the bicuspid and tricuspid valve. Imagine it. The atria or the auricles are contracting. They are getting squeezed. Okay. So blood is entering from them downward, as you can see in this arrow. So they have to cross the valves and go there. Now, semilunar valve at the root of the pulmonary artery and aorta would close, because right now the goal is only to fill up the ventricles. Okay. So obviously these valves must remain closed because we have not reached that stage yet. It's only that this is happening now, right? Because of which tricuspid and bicuspid valves are open, while the semilunar valves remain closed because it's trying to fill up the ventricles. So when this happens, it produces the dup sound. Okay, and this occurs, as I said, these two semilunar valves close in order to avoid backflow of blood in the ventricle, or in order to prevent the blood from entering into the blood vessels. Okay, so this is what happens in atrial systole. What happens when ventricular systole occurs? Ventricles contract. Look at the picture there, it's beautifully shown. The lower part is contracted or it's squeezing. So when this happens, the ventricular muscles would contract. Bicuspid and tricuspid valves now close with a jerk. and this produces what we call the lub sound. Okay, so these two, as you can see, remain closed now, because when ventricles are getting squeezed, blood has to enter these parts, right, the blood vessels respectively, so that it can leave the heart. Okay, right, 1 second. There is a mistake here. 1 second. I'll continue from where I stopped. Okay, then what happens? Also, blood passes into aorta and pulmonary artery through the semilunar valves. I've already told you that how it occurs, right? So this happens during ventricular systole, and atria at the same time gets filled, because atria are in a relaxed position now. They draw in blood through the opening of the vena cava and the pulmonary vein. They are the blood vessels which will at this time fill blood into the atria. Okay, and another important point to note is that there is a structure which is called chordae tendineae. Okay, chordae tendineae, which you can see here. This is what is chordae tendineae. These structures which hold the valve in place during pressure by the ventricle. Okay, acts something like a guard in order to hold the valves in position. Okay, the valves don't function by themselves. They have additional support, which is what chordae tendineae are there for. Cord-like structures, which is why the name is chordae tendineae. Okay, so this is very, very important to remember. Again, chordae tendineae can come as a 1-mark question. This is about how systole and diastole occur. Now, talking about double circulation, giving you an overview, I think compiling whatever I have told you until now in today's session, plus what I have told you in the previous session, you should by now be in a position to understand this. If you recall, we have 4 chambers in the heart: the right atrium, the right ventricle, left atrium, and the left ventricle. Always remember, children, the image is flipped. You are the doctor. The right and left shouldn't get mixed up, because it's the patient sitting facing you that you are observing the heart of. Okay, so these are the different blood vessels. I think this is beautifully shown in this. So where do we start with? We can probably start with the vena cava. Okay, what happens is, in every cell of this person's body, imagine this is us, like ourselves, every cell of the body, metabolic activities occur, and capillaries are collecting all the deoxygenated blood from every cell and tissue and taking it. They join together to form venules, which join together to form veins, and ultimately from the lower parts of the body, the inferior or posterior vena cava empties this blood into the right atrium. At the same time, the superior vena cava or the anterior vena cava carries deoxygenated blood from upper parts of the body, like head, neck, shoulders, and all of that, and empties it, of course, into the right atrium itself. From here, when atria contract, this blood flows into the right ventricle. Simultaneously, you must remember that on this side of the heart also events are happening. Okay, what are they? When right atrium is getting filled with deoxygenated blood from the vena cava, the left atrium is getting filled with oxygenated blood from the pulmonary vein, this way. Left atrium is getting filled with oxygenated blood. So when the atria contract, deoxygenated blood from here enters into right ventricle. Oxygenated blood from here enters into the left ventricle. Right. Now what happens? Ventricular systole occurs. When this happens, this deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle, notice it, children, notice the difference in every word that I'm using. From the right ventricle, it enters into the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery is the only artery of our body which carries deoxygenated blood. Okay, and where is it carrying it to? It's carrying it to the lungs, because lungs are the heart's very, very good friend, rather I would say the best friend, because the lungs are able to provide this blood with the oxygen that it requires, right? Okay, and then what happens? This deoxygenated blood, as you can see beautifully, the transition has been shown in the lungs. The blue blood is like transitioning into red blood because it is getting oxygenated, and then it enters, it leaves the lungs, and the pulmonary veins are bringing it into the left atrium, right? So I spoke right now about this side of ventricular contraction. When ventricles contract, events simultaneously occur on this side as well, on the left side of the heart as well. What is that? It is filled with, the left ventricle is filled with oxygenated blood. So now what happens? When the ventricles contract, this oxygenated blood enter into the aorta through the semilunar valves, aortic semilunar valve, and the aorta, which is the largest artery of our body, spreads it out through its branches and transports all this oxygenated blood to every single cell and tissue of our body. It branches out further and further and further. Arteries branch out into arterioles, arterioles branch out into capillaries, and capillaries ultimately supply every single cell and tissue of our body with rich oxygenated blood, and the cycle just continues. So because we have to talk about two separate pathways, wherein between heart and all the cells of our body is one pathway, and between the heart and lungs, you know, I told you lungs are like a very good friend of the heart, so they have a very special pathway, they have a separate pathway. We call that as the second pathway. Between heart and the rest of the body is systemic circuit, and between the heart and lungs, that VIP pathway is what we call pulmonary circuit. Always remember, children, the word pulmonary in biology refers to lungs. Okay, so yes, this is about systemic circuit and pulmonary circuit, and together we call it double circulation. Why so? Because the same blood flows twice through the heart. This is of great significance in complex organisms like us and other mammals, and a few other vertebrates also. Okay, and here is an overview. I think if you just keep a screenshot of this handy, it will be very useful for you. But you can also note it down. Like if I were in your position, I would honestly prefer to write it down using my hand, my fingers and pen, because my own handwriting makes me remember things easier. I'm not sure what works for you. Anything, whatever works for you is fine. So this is how this occurs, this schematic diagram of how this circulation occurs. You can see superior and inferior vena cava is where we start with. It brings it into the right atrium, deoxygenated blood. Then through tricuspid valve, it enters into the right ventricle, right side, okay? Right atrium, right ventricle. This is where we are, right? And then through the pulmonary valve, it enters into the pulmonary artery, and that takes it to the lungs. And in lungs, oxygenation occurs, and deoxygenated blood is carried by pulmonary veins. Remember, pulmonary veins are the only veins in our body which carry oxygenated blood. It brings it to the left atrium. Through the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve, it sends it down to the left ventricle, and through the aortic valve, it sends it into the aorta, and the aorta transports this oxygenated blood to the rest of our body. Why do we say rest of the body? Except the lungs and the heart, to all other parts is what rest of the body means. Because to the lungs, there is a separate vessel, which is the pulmonary artery. And to the heart muscles, we have the coronary artery. This is why we call it rest of the body. Okay. So this is about it, children. This is very important to know. In section A and section B, you can expect questions from different angles in this particular concept. So make it pakka. Make sure you are completely thorough with this particular context. Explain to yourself looking into the mirror, I don't know, or explain it to your younger sibling, your older sibling, your parents, whoever would sit patiently in front of you and listen to you. You can even explain to yourself your own reflection if you want. But then remember it, whatever it takes you to remember it very, very well. Even if I like wake you up in the middle of the night, you should be able to give me the answer to this. Okay, I want you guys to be that thorough with double circulation. Okay, now coming to the concept of blood pressure. We keep hearing like blood pressure, at least these days. I think regardless of age, even teenagers and young adults are prone to issues with blood pressure. Why so? Because a lot of stress and lifestyle issues and dietary habits and all of that add to a lot of strain on your heart and the blood vessels. So what exactly is this blood pressure? To give you a simple definition, this is it. The pressure exerted by the flowing blood on the arteries of the wall is what we call blood pressure. Remember, I told you in the arteries, blood flows under very, very high pressure. That pressure which this blood exerts on the arterial walls is what we call blood pressure. There are two limits. When we give the value of blood pressure, there are two limits that we commonly use. One is the upper limit, which is actually called the systolic pressure, and one is the lower limit, which is called the diastolic pressure. What exactly is it? Systolic pressure is the pressure that occurs when fresh blood is pushing through the artery because of ventricular contraction, right? This is systolic pressure. Diastolic pressure is recorded when the wave has passed over. During relaxation, when this blood has just passed over, when this wave has just passed over, diastolic pressure is recorded. This is what together gives us the value of blood pressure. So these are the normal ranges of blood pressure, and also what is elevated and what is dangerous is all mentioned in this table. Normally, a healthy human being should ideally have systolic blood pressure. We always, because it's pressure, we represent it in the unit of mmHg. You must have learned in your physics chapters, right? So normal blood pressure, normal systolic pressure has to be less than 120, a little less than 120. I think if it's less than 110 or 100, again, it's considered to be in the low pressure category. But normally, somewhere close to 120 is considered the normal systolic pressure. The normal diastolic pressure should also be maintained within 80. So how do we normally write this? Doctors would write it as 120/80. Okay, so 120 represents systolic and 80 represents diastolic pressure, the lower range. And then when it's between 120 to 129, it's said to be slightly elevated. Well, this is not so much of a problem when we say blood pressure is slightly elevated. It's normally the diastolic pressure might still be within its range. Whereas, when do we say a person has entered hypertension stage 1 or high blood pressure? This is when systolic pressure is between 130 to 139 and diastolic pressure is between 80 to 89. This can be maybe like around 90, 92 also sometimes when you say a person has high blood pressure. Now, high blood pressure or hypertension stage 2 is when systolic pressure is 140 or higher and diastolic pressure is 90 or higher. And hypertensive crisis, wherein you are really under major threat, you must consult your doctor immediately. If your blood pressure, your systolic pressure is higher than 180 and diastolic pressure is higher than 120, or it can be either this or this, which means sometimes it happens that systolic pressure might be within range while diastolic pressure might be higher than 120. Even if that's the case, it is very dangerous. Both should be more or less balanced, systolic and diastolic. Okay, so have that basic understanding as responsible biology students, because for any needs for yourself or for your elder siblings, for parents, grandparents, if you ever had to check blood pressure, what is the instrument, by the way, that we use? It's called a sphygmomanometer. Okay, the instrument which we commonly call BP apparatus in common man's language, right? It can either be a normal, like physical one, a manually operated one, or these days there are digital ones which are easier to use also. But anyway, the instrument is called sphygmomanometer when you have to check blood pressure. Now, what about pulse? Pulse is again another very, very commonly used word, right? So arteries have elastic and muscular walls. We have discussed that already. The wall of the arteries distend every time when blood is forced through it due to contraction of the heart, ventricular systole. We have also mentioned this when I told you about systolic pressure also, remember? So what exactly is this? This actually can be felt, the pulse can actually be felt if you touch the superficial artery. So what is the superficial artery? What is shown in this GIF is exactly what the superficial artery is. This one, the radial artery of wrist on the side of your thumb. If you might have observed, doctors actually use this part, just touch this part of your wrist to check if your pulse is normal. They take the count, right? How many beats per minute is your heart beating? This is an indication of that. Okay, so heartbeat is actually equal to pulse, because counting pulse is just like counting your heartbeat. But when you exercise, or when you are under very strong emotions, when you're angry, when you're very emotional or something like that, pulse rate can increase. Okay, this is why you feel heavy heart rate, like high heart rate, when you are back from like a morning jog or like a long run or marathon run or something like that. Okay, cut the last line, I'll repeat that. So this is actually why when you are back after like a long run or a long walk, or sometimes climbing up a flight of stairs for some people, you feel like gasping for breath, and you feel that your heart is beating faster than normal. So during such situations, pulse rate can be higher than normal. So I want you to do this also as an activity, children. Just take account of how many times your heart is beating per minute. In a minute, how many? I'm not asking about the standard. I don't want a Googled answer. I don't want a Googled up answer. What is it for you? In your case, just keep a watch nearby, keep a stopwatch or something nearby, and within 60 seconds or 1 minute, how many times can you feel the beat? Can you feel the pulse? Okay, just do that as an activity. Pacemaker, the natural pacemaker, I have told you, remember, sinuatrial node, which is found in the right atrium, and that passes on its one second. Yeah, I'll do that again. So the sinuatrial node, once again. So this sinuatrial node, or the SA node, if you recall, we call it the pacemaker of the heart. It generates the impulses. It's actually where everything originates. The electrical activity of the heart originates, and from the SA node it generates, and it spreads it to the AV node, and that spreads it to the His bundle, or the bundle of His, and then come the Purkinje fibers and so on. I've explained this in detail in our previous session. Now, just in case the natural pacemaker of the heart doesn't function normally because of some disease or some health issue, doctors have a facility of fitting in a medical device which is called an artificial pacemaker. Okay, this is used in place of the natural pacemaker, and it does exactly the same role that a natural pacemaker, which is the SA node, would do. It would generate impulses, and it would be able to detect abnormal activities, abnormal electrical activity in the heart of the patient also, and it will be able to regulate it accordingly. So this is what an artificial pacemaker is. Okay, children, now that we have done so much, we still have one more very important concept left, which is the hepatic portal system. But before that, let's take a very quick break, which means I'm going to give you like a couple of quick questions, 2 to 3 questions, to see where we stand. Okay, dash hold the valve in place during pressure by ventricle. Yes, is it the aorta, walls of atria, AV node, or chordae tendineae? Right, and Your time is up. The answer is caudate tendineae. Hold the valves in place during pressure by the ventricle. Act something like the doorkeeper, or sometimes what happens is in some buses, at least in Kerala, I have seen a lot of public transport buses wherein when the conductor is busy, they really don't, they really may not have somebody to always stand by the door of the bus. So they keep something like a rope there near the door, so that just by like pulling of it, it can shut by itself when the bus is about to start. Caudate tendineae acts something similar to that rope. Okay, now the normal systolic and diastolic blood pressure, respectively, the values in mmHg are 120 and 80, 80 and 120, 140 and 90, or 90 and 140. Systolic and diastolic. Systolic first and then diastolic. Okay, which is the higher value, which is the lower value? It's very important to know this difference. And your time is up, children. The answer is 120 and 80. Systolic is 120, diastolic is 80. Now, systole refers to relaxation, contraction, heartbeat, pulse. Okay, your time ends in 3, 2, 1, and go. The answer is contraction. So it is when contraction occurs that the value would naturally be higher, right? The pressure would naturally be higher, which is why systole refers to contraction. Okay, and very, very well done if you have got all these three correctly. In case you've not got anything correctly, please go back and have a re-look at whatever we have explained until now. Okay, and nonetheless, if you have enjoyed this quiz, please hit the like button right now, and then we shall proceed. But I need to tell you something very, very useful and important, which are related to the practical problems that you children face today in the world of online education. You may have a lot of unanswered doubts, maybe not proper access to notes, tests and assignments, competitive exam preparation, more of a problem, choice of the schedule of your convenience, choice of language. Some of you want to learn in English, some of you want to learn in Hindi, some of you want to learn in your native language, some of you may want a mix of these two, and so on. But not to worry at all, because we have got all of these problems solved right here for you. Anna, ஏதோ phone அடிக்கிறதே. I'll repeat this part after, when I'm transitioning to the next slide. So not to worry at all, because here at Vedantu, we've got all these problems solved for you. And not just that, we also have a lot of added bonuses for you, which are unlimited live classes, all micro and crash courses, performance reports, personalized attention, and what not. Yes, children, all you have to do is visit the link that's given in the description box below, and apply the coupon code AMBPRO. Remember this, AMBPRO. Okay, the specific link is given in the description box. Don't forget to click on it. But then, just in case you do get confused, let me guide you through it. Once you click on it, you will get the option to choose your grade. Okay, select your grade. For you guys, I'm assuming it's going to be grade 10. Right, so if you belong to grade 9, 11 or 12 or any other grade, choose it accordingly, and select the target, which means for you it will be ICSE 2021. For some of you, it may be CBSE 2021 or Maharashtra Board 2021, whatever as relevant. And then check out all the details I've already mentioned. Some of them, a few more added bonus features have been mentioned here. What is included in Vedantu Pro? All of them you can find here. Every single major feature, okay, is available here. And then what you do? Click on the button, get subscription. Children, this is going to be very, very useful to you. And let me tell you 3 common plans that we have. We have a 1-month plan, we have a 3-month plan, we have a 6-month plan. Whatever you choose according to your convenience, according to your budget, go for it. Okay, but then as a parent myself, as a teacher myself, I'm telling you, this is going to be very, very pocket friendly, and this is very reasonably priced for you. Let me tell you how. Normally, for a 1 month of Pro subscription, which means for that one full month, you have unlimited access to all the features that I have told you. Okay, unlimited live interactive classes, test series and analysis, assignments and notes, everything. Normally, it would cost you 2,699. Whereas application, I mean, currently it is normally priced at 2,699. Whereas application of the coupon code AMBPRO, remember I told you that, would reduce it to 2,159.2. Okay, so this is reducing your price for 1 month. So is this even feasible? I would say it is, because you are paying this amount for 1 month for unlimited classes, which means for all your subjects together. It's not just for one single subject. Compare it with what a normal private tutor would charge you. For each subject, you might end up paying this much or at least close to this. But here we are giving you all your major subjects covered in this amount. Okay, so for 3 months, what do you do? 3 months, the normal price right now is 6,999, but apply the coupon code AMBPRO and it's going to reduce it to 5,599.2. Okay, so this is for 3 months, which means for 3 full months you will be tension free. Everything available to you at a pocket friendly and a pocket friendly price, and that too great quality content. For 6 months, if you want to subscribe, which means now it's October, November, December, January, February, March, which means for the rest of this academic year, you can be tension free if you opt for the 6 months of subscription. Normally it's priced at 11,499. Whereas application of the coupon code AMBPRO is reducing it to 9,199.2. Okay, which means for 6 months, for all your subjects, for all these features, you are paying only this much as a package. Be tension free for the rest of your academic year. Wow, I cannot think of a better option than this. So just in case you are still confused, children, I can give you a suggestion. This total amount which I have told you, divide it by the number of sessions that you will be eligible to avail in this 6 months package. This will give you an estimate of the per session cost. Okay, once you have that estimate, I'm sure you will realize that this is one of the most reasonably priced courses that you can ever find. Okay, children, so with that, let's continue into our last concept for the day, which is about the portal system. What exactly is the portal system? Simply put, it is a system of vessels, a system of blood vessels in which blood, after passing through one capillary bed, is conveyed through a second set of capillaries before it returns to the systemic circulation. Because from one part of the body, it starts in a capillary bed, it joins to form maybe a set of veins, and then they split up to form another capillary bed in another organ. But these two organs I have mentioned, organ 1 and 2, are not the heart. Okay, only after that it's going to join the rest of the circulation to reach the heart. This is what we call a portal system. Is it even important? Yes, it is important, because your heart as such is a very hard working organ. It can't perhaps manage to take up too much of responsibility all at once. So some parts of your body, especially your liver, has a separate portal system wherein through this it's trying to reduce the burden on the heart. So we call this system, this portal system wherein the liver is involved, as the hepatic portal system. Always remember, hepatic, the word hepatic refers to the liver. Hepatic portal system is this. So as you can see here, the vein which starts from the stomach and intestine does not send the blood directly to the posterior vena cava. Remember I told you posterior vena cava normally carries deoxygenated blood from all parts of the body into your right atrium. But then there is a vein which starts from the stomach and intestine which chooses not to send the blood directly into the posterior vena cava. What they do is they combine together as the hepatic portal vein and enter into the liver. As you can see here, arterial blood is supplied into the stomach and intestine. Nutrients and toxins are all absorbed. This is the first capillary bed in the stomach and intestine. From there, from the intestine, these capillaries join to form what we call the hepatic portal vein. And the hepatic portal vein enters into the liver. These are your liver cells, which we call hepatocytes. So nutrients and all toxins leave. So what does your liver do? Liver does a major important job of detoxification and a lot of other added processes which can ease the process of absorption of nutrients. Okay, so hepatocytes, here nutrients and toxins leave, and this is what we call the second capillary bed. So first capillary bed, second capillary bed. First capillary bed is in the intestines, second capillary bed is in the liver sinusoids, or rather the hepatocytes or the liver cells. And from there, they would join into the hepatic vein, which eventually joins into the inferior vena cava or the posterior vena cava, as we may also call it, which enters into the systemic circulation. Yes, so in the liver, they break up into capillaries. A new vein called the hepatic vein is formed, which is what I have marked for you last. And then the hepatic vein unites with the posterior vena cava. This is how hepatic portal system functions. So just to make it a little easier for you, I have also put a step-by-step image of it to have an overview. Step 1 is this: products of digestion are absorbed into the capillaries within the villi of the small intestine. In step 2, digested food molecules travel through the hepatic portal veins to the liver. Okay, hepatic portal vein. And then step 3, what does your liver do? It monitors all the blood contents. And step 4, hepatic veins deliver blood to the circulatory system, to the normal systemic circulation. This is how hepatic portal system functions. And what is the significance of this? This helps in monitoring glucose levels in your blood. It helps in detoxification of substances absorbed in the blood, and very importantly, it reduces a lot of the burden on the heart. Because imagine, if from the intestines all of these toxins were to directly enter into the right atrium of the heart, intestine to heart directly, like dumping everything without a second mediator, which was the liver in this case, what would have been the case? All of those toxins and all of these products would be like scattered all over the place. Unnecessarily, a lot of your body systems would have to get in touch with all of these unwanted substances. So to avoid all of that, we have the hepatic portal system. The hepatic portal system is not the only portal system in the body, but rather it is the most important portal system in the body. Okay, so now let's have the last quiz for the day. The hepatic vein eventually unites with posterior vena cava, anterior vena cava, both A and B, none of these. If you've listened to me like for the last 5 minutes, you would certainly know the answer to this. And your time is up. The answer is posterior vena cava. The vein which drains blood from the intestine to the liver is dash. Posterior vena cava, anterior vena cava, hepatic portal vein, none of these. Okay. And your time is up. The answer is hepatic portal vein. Yes. All right. Drains blood from the intestine to the liver. Okay. Hepatic portal vein. Hepatic vein comes later on. And a portal system, what is it? It starts from and ends in capillaries. It starts from arteries and ends in veins. Starts from veins and ends in arteries. Does not join the common bloodstream. Which of these is true about a portal system? Okay. And your time is up. The answer is starts from capillaries and ends in capillaries. This is what the portal system is, which means starts from capillaries and ends in capillaries without entering the heart. This is what the speciality is. And very, very well done if you have got all of the answers correct, children. And even otherwise, it doesn't matter. We still have plenty of time. We will ensure together that you are exam ready by the time your pre-board season comes. But nonetheless, to show that you've been enjoying these sessions, please do hit the like button right now, because of course this is a premiere session also, and that is the only way I will be able to see how much you have gained through these sessions. Okay, so yes children, let me remind you, we now know about the structure of the heart, the working of the heart, heartbeat, pulse, and the hepatic portal system. Yes, we have covered a lot of major concepts, and do remember to visit the link which is given in the description box below the pinned comment and apply the coupon code AMBPRO. Why is it important to apply the coupon code? Because otherwise you end up paying extra, like unnecessarily. Of course, you would end up paying the normally priced rate. But then when this is available to you, please do make use of it, because good quality content available at pocket friendly prices, children. So this is your homework for today. Essay note if the heart is present in which chamber of the heart. Yes, let's see how many of you give me the answers quickly and correctly. Okay, thank you very much, children. Once again, before you leave, please remember to hit the like button, share it with all your class 10 ICSE friends, and I would suggest your CBSE friends also, because they also have the chapter life processes, and also your class 11 friends, if at all you have ISE friends or CBSE 11 friends, because they also have to learn about circulation. Everything starts from the basics, right? So that's about sharing. And in case you've not subscribed to our channel, Vedantu 9th and 10th English, hit the subscribe button right now so that you don't miss out on any new updates that comes up on this channel. Every single day, all of us teachers come up with different videos to ensure that your learning process is very, very smooth. Right. And until we meet again, this is Ambika signing off. Take care, stay happy, stay healthy. Bye bye.